Hi everyone, I'm Jay Hyland, the archivist of Jewish Museum Milwaukee, and today I'd like to share with you the story of Irving Rhodes. Now, those of you who have lived in Milwaukee for a long time may remember him as the longtime publisher of the Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle from its inception in December of 1921 until 1972 when he retired and the Milwaukee Jewish Federation began operating the paper, which continues to this day. And I'd like to talk a little bit about Irving's life besides the Chronicle. His parents were Morris and Anna Rosenstein, and Irving was born in 1900 in Pabianice, Poland, a small town near Łódź. His father specialized in painting biblical scenes and actually painted the ceiling of the only shul in Irving's hometown. In the early 1900s, his father immigrated to the U.S. with two of Irving's older sisters and oldest brother. Irving, his mother, younger brother, and two sisters later immigrated to the U.S., but first went to Antwerp, where they had family and stayed there for a while. While there, one of the younger sisters had eye trouble, and Irving's mother was fearful she wouldn't be able to pass the rigid health test in Ellis Island. So the family split up, and Irving and his younger brother and mother went through Ellis Island and ended up in Detroit, Michigan, while Irving's two younger sisters stayed in Antwerp, but later joined the rest of the family by going through Montreal and Windsor before finally going to Detroit. In Detroit, Irving's father was an interior decorator and painter, and also founded the first Zionist society in the city. He painted scenes at some of the various old movie houses in Detroit and also did some sculpting. Irving attended Detroit Central High School, and the article that you see here is from a Detroit newspaper showing Irving on the far left, and then known as Israel Rosenstein, with a few of his classmates who had organized a chess club. After graduating from high school, he attended the University of Michigan and later moved to Milwaukee with his good friend Nathan Gould, where they co-founded the Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle. There's a picture of Irving in 1926 as a young man, not too long after he had been in Milwaukee. In early January of 1948, Irving was tabbed with a great honor. He was chosen by leaders of American Jewry to chair the first ever national overseas mission by U.S. Jews visiting European and Israeli Jewish communities. Approximately 27 leaders from all over the U.S. flew to Europe to make a first-hand survey of conditions in the displaced persons camps and the rehabilitation needs, along with surveying immigration and settlement requirements in Palestine. The trip was sponsored by the United Jewish Appeal, a philanthropic organization that many years later became the Jewish Federations of North America. The photo you're looking at here was taken at LaGuardia Airport on January 27, 1948, just before the group left on a plane called the United Jewish Appeal Star of Hope. Irving is pictured second from the left, shaking hands with an unidentified man. The group spent 24 hours living at a DP camp in Germany, where they gained experience on what it was like to live as a displaced person. They ate the typical dinner of oatmeal, potato soup, and bread, and slept on narrow cots with thin blankets while spending time with some of the occupants and hearing their intense personal stories. The picture you see here is Irving with some children at a DP camp in Paris, France during the trip. And there's a picture of the DP camp in Germany. The second part of the trip involved visiting Palestine. When the group was entering Haifa in two armored buses, they were shot at with 30 to 40 bullets striking the two vehicles. A tire was punctured and one of the buses nearly overturned, but thankfully no one in the delegation was injured. In a letter back home, Irving wrote that the fire was heavy and I was scared to death. This photo that you're looking at here is a photo of a young woman who was a member of the Haganah, shown at the bridge of a small boat that carrying the United Jewish Appeal delegation across Lake Tiberias. The Haganah was the main Zionist paramilitary organization in Palestine until they later became the core of the Israeli Defense Forces once Israel had been officially established. Irving referred to them as, quote, a splendid and courageous type of youth who protected us throughout our entire trip through Palestine. They have the rare courage, the intelligence, and the vigor of a kind of youthful leadership that is the best assurance of the permanence and security of a Jewish future in Palestine. Another part of the trip of Irving's trip involved the group visiting David Ben Gurion, where they presented him with a miniature gold replica of the Statue of Liberty, which had been given to the group by former New York Governor Herbert Lehman. Lehman had stressed the importance of the message engraved on the Statue of Liberty of "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free," and he said those noble words applied with equal poignancy to the new Jewish state in Palestine. In the photo you see here, Ben Gurion is presenting Irving and the group with a prayer book in return. This visit to Israel moved Irving quite deeply, and he later said about the trip, I needn't tell you, I was so moved the first time I saw this land. And to think that I am privileged to be here at this crucial stage in the struggle of our people. I don't want to become maudlin, but I had a lump in my throat, and hadn't I been surrounded by a large group, I would have prostrated myself and kissed the ground. The landscape around here was beautiful. The land was laid out in orderly fashion, groves dotted the scene. Tel Aviv looked like a modern city, wide thoroughfares and its apartment buildings ultra-modern in design. Shortly after Irving returned from the mission to Israel in the DP camps, the community hosted a welcome home Irving dinner on March 8, 1948, where over 500 people attended. Here you see a picture of the dinner and notice how many people are there. And this is a closer shot of the dinner where you see that 1948 is marked as a year of destiny, along with the Welcome Home Irving sign. And Irving is in the middle at the head table. At this dinner, Irving said about his trip, this was not philanthropy. This is not charity they want from us. They merely want an opportunity of building a permanent home for themselves and the refugees who want to join them in Palestine. If we fail the Jews of Palestine, we will never have another opportunity of building a permanent home, The disaster of a Jewish defeat will be on our conscience for all the years ahead. Shortly after this, Irving was also named the chairman of the Milwaukee Jewish Welfare Fund annual campaign, his third year in a row as chairman. After accepting the job, he said, "I have one outstanding qualification for this job. I'm the biggest fool in town." This, the goal for that year was raising $2.5 million, an unprecedented amount. And the group ended up raising 1.75 million, a record amount raised up to that time. In future years, Irving stayed involved with the Milwaukee Jewish community, including this picture that you see here, which was the cornerstone laying of the Jewish Community Center on Prospect Avenue, a location that's next to our current museum building here on Prospect Avenue. Irving is pictured fourth from the left, and we actually still have the cornerstone here at the Jewish Museum. During his life, Irving also maintained a significant friendship with U.S. Senator and Vice President Hubert H. Humphrey. This is an example here with the letter that Hubert Humphrey wrote Irving in 1964, saying that he was so kind and generous to let him know his impression of the CBS Reports show, and that he's pleased that he took the time to see it and tell him about it, and calling Irving a dear friend. And here is a picture of the two of them in 1966. When Irving was honored in 1965 for outstanding services to Israel and the Jewish people, even Golda Meir sent a telegram stating she regretted being unable to attend and recognized his deep commitment to our people in constructing a strong and living bridge between Israel and many communities in the U.S., but especially Milwaukee. Irving Rhodes was a very memorable character in the history of Milwaukee's Jewish community. In speaking about him, one of his colleagues, Sylvia Bernstein, said of him, quote, "I've never heard a more impressive manner of speaking or been exposed to a more volatile disposition than that of Irving Rhodes. Irascible, sentimental, clever entrepreneur, but a passionate believer in humane causes and learning." This is a picture here of Irving and his wife Frances in 1963, about to go on another trip to Israel. At one of the many tributes that was given to Irving during his life, his wife was asked to speak, and when asked to sum up Irving's personality, she said, quote, "I should get a Purple Heart, but I wouldn't want to miss a minute of it." Thanks so much to our museum's moment supporter, Robin Cohn, for supporting these moments. And you can learn more about Jewish Museum Milwaukee and our upcoming programs at jewishmuseummilwaukee.org. Thank you.